Level 0. You look at a map and it seems obvious. The continents used to fit together like puzzle pieces. South America's east coast curves perfectly into Africa's west. But for centuries, it was dismissed as coincidence until Alfred Wegener in 1912 suggested something radical: continental drift. Back then, the idea was ridiculed. Geologists asked, what force could move entire continents? Wegener had no mechanism, just a theory, but he had fossils, identical species found on distant continents, rock layers that matched across oceans, mountains that lined up like snapped bones. He believed there had once been a supercontinent, Pangaea, that slowly tore apart. And today, we know he was right. Level 0 is the foundation, the unification of geologic thought. Tectonic plates exist, they move, and continents are not permanent fixtures, but wandering giants. Earth's crust floats on a semi-liquid mantle. Driven by convection currents and deep heat, they collide, split, and drift. The breakup of Pangaea wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. Use GPS stations mounted across continents, like in Australia or North America, to see continental drift in real time. They move several centimeters per year. Level 1. Now we go back further. Before Pangaea, there was another, older and largely forgotten, Rodinia, born about 1.1 billion years ago, an ancient supercontinent that predated complex life. It was the Earth's Middle Age, land clustered near the equator. Rodinia was massive and lifeless. No grass, no dinosaurs, no trees, just microbial mats, bare rock, and primitive oceans lapping against shores that are now part of Canada, Siberia, and Australia. Rodinia broke apart around 750 million years ago. Its rifting may have triggered a planetary freeze, the snowball Earth event, where glaciers reached the equator. The breakup flooded the oceans with nutrients, possibly catalyzing the rise of multicellular life. And that's the pattern. When continents break, life changes. Ocean currents shift, climates flip, ecosystems collapse or flourish. The Earth doesn't just rearrange its furniture, it resets the room. Evidence for Rodinia's breakup is found in the Grenville orogeny, a mountain building event whose remnants stretch from eastern Canada to Scandinavia to Antarctica. Level 2. Gondwana and Laurasia. After Rodinia came Pangaea, and then the more familiar split, Gondwana in the south, Laurasia in the north. These weren't full supercontinents, but continental precursors that would one day rejoin as Pangaea. Gondwana contained what is now Africa, South America, Antarctica, India, and Australia. Laurasia was North America, Europe, and Asia. For millions of years, they danced across the planet, colliding with island arcs, scraping subduction zones, building mountain ranges like the Appalachians and the Caledonides. Eventually, they merged to form Pangaea about 335 million years ago. But even during their lifetimes, their separation dictated climate and biodiversity. Gondwana, in particular, was home to lush forests, reptiles, and eventually, the rise of the dinosaurs. Fossils of the same early land animals are found in Argentina and South Africa, in Australia and India, not because they migrated across oceans, but because the land was once whole. Glossopteris, an extinct seed fern, is a key fossil linking Gondwana's landmasses. Its wide distribution is core evidence for past supercontinent configuration. Level 3. Pangaea, the last great unification. Roughly 300 million years ago, all land was joined, a single supercontinent surrounded by one vast ocean, Panthalassa. But Pangaea was no paradise. Its interior was arid, a vast desert far from oceanic moisture. Gigantic mountain ranges, like the central Pangaean Mountains, towered where continents collided. This was the Permian era, and life was booming. Amphibians ruled rivers, insects were giants, reptiles, precursors to dinosaurs, diversified. But around 252 million years ago, the Great Dying occurred, Earth's worst mass extinction. Over 90% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates vanished. One likely trigger: Pangaea's stability was already cracking. Rifting began in the region we now call the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, unleashing massive volcanic eruptions. CO2 levels spiked. oceans acidified, and the supercontinent started to fail. The breakup of Pangaea would unleash entirely new biogeographic pathways. As continents drifted apart, isolated ecosystems diverged, evolution accelerated, dinosaurs inherited the Earth. The Atlantic Ocean is the scar of Pangaea's breakup. Its mid-ocean ridge is still pushing continents apart today, at roughly the rate your fingernails grow. Level 4. The modern continents emerge. After Pangaea shattered, the landmasses didn't scatter at once. First came Laurasia and Gondwana, again, then those split further. By 180 million years ago, South America and Africa were separating. India, once nestled next to Madagascar, began racing north, eventually slamming into Asia and creating the Himalayas. Australia broke free and drifted toward its present position, slowly shedding its Antarctic roots. The process was slow, but relentless. The opening of the Atlantic reshaped global ocean circulation. Warm currents began flowing toward Europe, cooling the tropics and warming the poles. And isolated continents meant unique creatures. Marsupials thrived in Australia, absent large predators. Sloths and armadillos evolved in South America, cut off from northern species. The separation created evolutionary labs, and when land bridges formed later, like between North and South America, the Great American Biotic Interchange turned those labs into war zones. The Isthmus of Panama formed around 3 million years ago, connecting the Americas, and is partly why the Gulf Stream now exists, impacting Europe's climate. Level 5. We are between supercontinents. Right now, this very moment, the continents are still moving. The Atlantic is widening, the Pacific is shrinking, Australia is bulldozing into Southeast Asia, and East Africa is splitting apart, the Rift Valley forming a new ocean basin in slow motion. Geologists believe we're on the path to a new supercontinent, and they've got theories. Will it be Amasia, where Asia and the Americas collide over the North Pole? Or Pangaea Proxima, a rerun of old formations but in reverse? Or Novo Pangaea, where the Pacific closes and the continents merge on the other side? Each scenario depends on which subduction zones survive, which plates dominate, which ridges persist. One thing is certain, in 200 to 300 million years, Earth will have a new continent-spanning titan. And when that happens, ocean patterns will change, the climate will shift, species will go extinct, and others will evolve. Supercontinents are geological reboots. They end one biosphere and begin another. The East African Rift is splitting at about 7 millimeters per year. Someday, perhaps in 5 to 10 million years, a new ocean will form between Ethiopia and Kenya. Level 6. The African Supersplit. The birth of a new ocean. East Africa groans beneath your feet. Not metaphorically, literally. The ground trembles in slow motion. Fissures open in farmlands. Roads crack. Satellite imagery shows it clearly. The African continent is splitting in two. This is the East African Rift System, a tectonic tear stretching over 6,000 kilometers from the Afar Triangle in Ethiopia to Mozambique. It's not sudden, it's not violent, but it's relentless. Two massive tectonic plates, the Nubian and Somali plates, are drifting apart. Right now, the gap is only millimeters wider each year, but give it 5 to 10 million years and you'll have a newborn ocean swallowing parts of Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Volcanoes erupt along this scar. The Danakil Depression, one of the hottest places on Earth, bubbles with sulfur and acidic lakes. This isn't just heat, it's birth pangs. The Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden are the ocean's embryonic arms, already starting to wrap around what will become a brand new microcontinent. Scientists are already mapping the future coastline of this coming ocean. If the rift fully opens, modern East Africa could host the youngest ocean basin on the planet, complete with its own islands, faults, and shores. Level 7. The Indo-Australian Divorce, a tectonic marriage ending badly. For millions of years, India and Australia have ridden the same tectonic plate, a single unit known as the Indo-Australian plate. But beneath the Indian Ocean, a quiet breakup has begun. Seismologists noticed it first. Large, unusual earthquakes with weird fracture patterns. In 2012, 2 magnitude 8 quakes struck west of Sumatra. not along a traditional fault, but inside a plate. That's not normal. The truth emerged. The Indo-Australian plate is tearing itself apart. Stress from India's collision with Asia, the very force that built the Himalayas, has started pulling the plate in different directions. Australia moves northeast. India pushes north. The forces are incompatible. A rift is forming. Geologists now argue the Indo-Australian plate is splitting into 2 or even 3 smaller plates. The crack runs invisibly under the ocean, but it's no less real. And the effects? They're coming. New plate boundaries mean new subduction zones, volcanoes, and earthquake hazards, particularly in the eastern Indian Ocean and Indonesia. This internal plate fracture may explain puzzling seismic risks in places previously thought stable, like southern Indonesia, parts of Western Australia, or even undersea basins once assumed dormant. Level 8. The Atlantic Reversal. Will the Americas drift away again? We're used to the Atlantic Ocean growing. That's what it's done since Pangaea broke apart, shoving the Americas westward and pushing Europe and Africa east. But that's only one chapter in the tectonic novel. In some models, the Atlantic is nearing its maximum width. The mid-Atlantic ridge, the undersea seam where new crust forms, is slowing. Meanwhile, subduction zones are forming along the eastern coasts of the Americas. Yes, subduction in the Atlantic. That's a sign the ocean might be preparing to close. This theory, called introversion, suggests that over the next 200 to 300 million years, the Atlantic will shrink. The Americas will reverse direction, drifting back toward Europe and Africa. A new supercontinent, dubbed Orica, could form near the equator. Geological whispers of this reversal are already present, like the incipient subduction zone off Portugal near the Azores. The tectonic clock ticks slowly, but it never stops. Subduction zones in the Atlantic may lead to volcanic arcs in the future, changing the geological destiny of the east coast of the US, Western Africa, and southern Europe. Level 9. The death of the Pacific. The ring will close. The Pacific Ocean is dying. It's not poetic, it's geological. Unlike the Atlantic, the Pacific is ringed by subduction zones, trenches that swallow seafloor crust back into Earth's mantle. The Pacific plate is steadily being consumed on all sides. This is the setting of extraversion, a theory where the next supercontinent forms on the opposite side of where the last one split. If that's true, then what began with Pangaea's breakup in the Atlantic may end with a new supercontinent, Nova Pangaea, forming where the Pacific now churns. Australia, Asia, and North America will close in. The Pacific plate will vanish. The Pacific Ocean, 165 million square kilometers wide today, could shrink into a narrow inland sea, then collapse entirely under mountains and magma. Already, places like the Mariana Trench and Tonga-Kermadec system show how deep, fast, and violent this collapse can be. The Pacific's Ring of Fire isn't just a hazard zone, it's a countdown clock. Its volcanic activity hints at how rapidly the oceanic crust is being recycled. Level 10. Amasia ascends, the polar supercontinent. Some scientists argue that the next supercontinent won't form at the equator, but at the top of the world. This model is called orthoversion, and it predicts that Earth's continents will cluster around the Arctic, forming a landmass called Amasia. Why the Arctic? Because it sits opposite the center of the last supercontinent, Pangaea. Geological cycles called true polar wander and mantle convection flows pull land toward former voids. Asia and North America are already converging in the north. Siberia and Alaska inch closer every year. Australia may pivot northward, sliding past Indonesia. Even Africa might twist toward the pole. Amasia would be cold, mountainous, and potentially wrapped in polar ice, unlike any supercontinent before. If it happens, sea levels could fall as ice accumulates. Equatorial zones would become vast oceans, and Earth's biodiversity would be reshaped once more. Magnetic data from ancient rocks support this polar convergence model. Past supercontinents like Rodinia and Nuna may also have formed in high latitudes, making Amasia more than just a theory. Level 11. The supercontinent within. The broken heart of Eurasia. Most supercontinent models look outward, at oceans, rifts, and drifting plates. But one theory flips the lens inward. What if the next continental shift begins inside Eurasia? The heart of this theory lies beneath the Eurasian plate, a massive region crisscrossed by ancient sutures, fault zones, and buried cratons. One proposal suggests that central Eurasia, stretching from Kazakhstan to Mongolia, could tear open. This rupture would split the Eurasian plate in two. Africa might drift north to collide with Europe. Meanwhile, East Asia might pivot away, joining the Americas in forming a new landmass in the northern Pacific. This scenario creates Pangaea Ultima, a hypercontinent curled into a thick band across the northern hemisphere. It doesn't require oceans to close, it simply relies on old scars to reopen and rewrite Earth's geography from the inside out. China's interior earthquakes and the slow rise of the Tibetan Plateau offer clues that the Eurasian plate is more mobile and more fractured than once thought. Level 12. The far future. One continent, one ocean, one cycle. Now we leave tectonics and enter time, hundreds of millions of years from now. All the competing models, introversion, extroversion, orthoversion, resolve into one truth. The continents will converge again, because they always do. This is the supercontinent cycle, Earth's slow heartbeat. Roughly every 400 to 600 million years, the land gathers, splits, gathers again. Rodinia, Pangaea, Amasia, Orica, Pangaea. Names change, cycles don't. Eventually, Earth may become a single landmass. Pangaea Proxima, the hypothetical future continent. Its interior may be an arid desert, its edges ringed by mountains. Life will adapt or vanish. But this cycle doesn't just affect land. It reshapes ocean currents, climate zones, biodiversity, and carbon storage. It's tied to mass extinctions, evolutionary bursts, and planetary temperature swings. And one day, it will end. Because Earth's interior is cooling, mantle convection will slow. Tectonic plates may stall. And in the very distant future, 2 to 3 billion years from now, continental drift itself could stop. Earth will be quiet, still, one face of rock beneath a dimming sun. By studying continental cycles, scientists have identified links between supercontinent formation and mass extinction events, meaning the planet's deep future may already be influencing its deep past. Continents don't scream when they move. They crack, they swell, they vanish beneath our feet while we look the other way. But every shoreline is temporary, every map is a moment, and the world you know, it's just the latest draft. If you loved this journey through Earth's deep time, hit that subscribe button, because we've got more tectonic truths, climate twists, and planetary puzzles on the way. Thanks for watching, and for helping us reshape curiosity, one story at a time. See you in the next video.